Hey friends, thanks so much for tuning in to How to Write Songs. I'm your host, Sam Mizell, and on today's episode, we have my friend and my brother from another mother, Regie Hamm, award-winning songwriter, producer, blogger, with hits like The Time of My Life, David Cook, All About a Man, and I Surrender All by Clay Cross. Please welcome my friend, Regie Hamm. Well, hey, welcome to the How to Write a Song in 10-minute series. You know,
Yeah.
I am always fascinated when I hear people that I look up to and have written with, and people who have had monster hits or whatever. When I do interviews or when I talk to them, I always learn something that I would have never. Like the crazy, like I did a interview today with Keith Follesay. Do you know Keith?
I know who he is. Yeah, we had the same management for about 10 minutes. So,
yeah. Well, he was telling me even that the Way You Love Me song that he had that was like huge for Faith Hill, like if it had been for the backup singer or the demo singer, the song would have never happened. And I'm like, you know what I mean? Like, how in the world, And yet, as a songwriter, he has the same journey that we all have.
Well, it's the same job, Sam. It's the same job for everybody.
It is.
And I'll tell you this. At the end of it, we are all connected to Kevin Bacon.
At the very heart of our soul.
At the very heart of all of it. It all goes back to Kevin Bacon.
It does. It does. And even just bacon. You know what I mean? I mean,
essentially, that's what it comes down to, is bacon.
Kevin Bacon really boils down to bacon. So
I have tweeted at those guys like 3 or 4 times saying we should tour together, the Bacon Brothers and Regie Hamm, the Bacon and Ham tour.
Oh man,
it should absolutely happen, right?
Dude, that would be monumental.
Yeah.
So anyway, dude, I've told you this a million times, but like you're one of my heroes, You've written some of my favorite songs, and
thank you, man.
I don't like most of your songs, but there's a couple.
Right. A few of them worked. Yeah. Everybody gets lucky every once in a while, brother.
Every dog has its day every now and then. Dude, you've been a songwriter for a long time, and it's like, so right off the bat, when did you write your first song? When did you know you had something?
So I wrote my first song when I was 9. So this is, we're talking about 44 years ago.
Oh, wow.
I wrote my first song when I was 9, and it kind of just fell on me in church. I took it to my mother, and I mean, it was verse, chorus. I mean, I had all of it. And I took it to my mom and showed it to her while my dad was preaching. I said, Mom, I think I have something here. To her credit, I want to tell you, this is a good mom. She took me into a back Sunday school room where there was an old piano where no one could hear us out in the service. And she said, let me see this. And so I sang the melody that I wanted to, that I was kind of hearing, and she picked out the key and she started playing and accompanying me. She goes, you're going to sing this before the service is over. This,
wow.
People need to hear this. And so my dad came down from preaching, and they were having like the wrap it up stuff that they have at church. And she brought my dad to the side, whispered in his ear, and he goes, well, you know what? We got something special that needs to happen. And I sang that song right there, right after it had been written.
Oh my gosh.
And I was not
debuted right there on the spot.
Wrote it and debuted it right there the same night. But it was because my mother was attentive to that. You know what I mean? She could have very easily said, Reg, you need to be quiet till the service is over. But she was like in tune and listening, and she knew that it was important to me.
Yeah.
And so she then made it important to everybody. And that was kind of the first time I saw what that could do. you know, the sort of impact it could have on people, and it could really mean something to them, you know. And then when I was 11, and then I kind of messed around with, I mean, I was playing music already with my family, but as far as writing goes, and I was just learning how to play the piano. When I was 11, my brother and I formed a little band, and I really dove into songwriting hard at that point. And just, you know, the whole 10,000 hour thing, man, I promise you, I've done more than that.
Yeah, no doubt.
And a lot of it is just figuring stuff out that does not work, you know.
So when did you know that you had something, though?
That I was really good at it?
Yeah, that you were going to, it was going to, you know, somewhere a McDonald's meal was going to get paid for, you know.
I'll tell you what, whenever that happens, I'll let you know.
Yeah.
I think I don't honestly, Sam, really, I'm probably like all artistic people. I have vacillated between I suck, I'm the greatest thing that's ever happened. I kind of live in between those two things and always have. So there, you know, there would be times when I would think, I think I got something here. Mm-hmm. And then, you know, an hour later, I'd be like, oh my gosh, I don't even know why I do this. You know,
right. Yes.
I think it was probably when I started hearing my songs on the radio. People started taking me seriously, and they were actually paying me. You know, I was cashing checks, and that's, you know, I mean, I was in my 20s then, and that's when I kind of looked around and went, okay, at least they think I know what I'm doing. I better act like I know what I'm doing.
Right.
You know?
Right. Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Probably late teens, honestly, to answer you honestly, is when I thought I had a shot at maybe doing something like this.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So what was your first like hit? Like you're like, okay, this is a hit, you know?
My first radio single was a song called Carry Your Heart to Me that I wrote with Joel Lindsay. Joel Lindsay and I go way, way, way back. We were roommates.
It's funny.
Years and years ago.
I'm interviewing him next.
Oh, are you really? Well, Joel and I mean, I was 19 when I met Joel.
Oh, wow.
And he's a little bit older than me, but not much. And we were roommates, and we starved together and got our electricity turned off together. I mean, we go way that far back.
I have been.
And yeah. And in fact, one great funny story. Joel's so laid back. He was always cool about all of it. But he came in one day, and all of our utilities had gotten turned off, all of them. And he comes in and he goes, man, I don't really need water, but I got to have the phone. So we kind of pooled our money and got the phone turned back on. But anyway, we go that far back. But we used to write a lot together, and we wrote a song called Carry Your Heart to Me that the Imperials recorded.
Oh, wow.
And they put it out. They put it out as a single, and it went to number 7, I think. It was the top 10. And I was driving down 40 East. I'll never forget it. And I heard it on the radio, and that's the first time I'd ever heard. That's a big moment when you hear.
Yeah, man.
The reason it's a big moment is because you hear it between other stuff that you know is legit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And all of a sudden you get this. I got a sense of responsibility. Some people get a sense of elation or whatever. For me, it was like, oh, wow. If I'm going to be there a lot, then the quality always has to be there. Like I can never sleep on it because a lot of people are listening to this right now.
Yeah, man.
You know?
Yeah.
So, but that was the first time I heard one of my songs on the radio. And that was, I guess you would call that a hit. It wasn't a smash hit, but it was definitely a top 10 single.
Hey,
so.
you know, I mean, dude, there's always a first one, you know? Yeah, that's really awesome. It's funny. Some people remember and some people don't. It's funny, just in the interviews I've had so far, it's so strange to hear, you know, people's stories. It's like, you know, but one thing that is common, with the exception of one or two people I've talked to, is most people they either think they really suck or they, you know, their self-confidence is just, it's almost the mountain they have to climb more than actual writing the songs, you know?
That's interesting. Yeah.
You know, the self-confidence is like the biggest hurdle.
Well, it's funny because right before this, I did a podcast with a guy, and we were talking about this very thing. And he was asking me about confidence and if I used to be arrogant or whatever. And I don't know that I was ever necessarily arrogant, but I will tell you this, and I've always made this analogy. I've heard NFL players say, if you don't think you're the biggest, baddest man on that field, you'd better get off the field because you're going to get killed.
Yes.
And I say the same thing to people. If you don't think about this, Sam, when you walk into the music business, what you're saying to everybody is, guys, I know you've heard Beethoven. I know you've heard the Beatles. I know you've heard Elvis. I know you've heard Dylan, but you haven't heard me.
Right.
I mean, just the absolute hubris it takes to do that. You know what I mean?
Man, I'm going to write that down. That is the best. That's one of the best quotes I've ever heard.
and the thing is, you have to have that. If you don't have that, you're not going anywhere. Fortunately for me, by the time I figured out that was probably foolhardy, I was far enough along to where I could kind of fake it. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, well, I'm here now, so I can, you know.
Yeah, man.
But,
yeah, I've never thought about that. Yeah, you've all heard Paul McCartney, but wait till you get a load of,
But you haven't heard Sam Mizell.
I know. I know, and sometimes I feel if people probably shouldn't have heard.
Now, I will tell you something interesting. We talk about hit songs. So I remember the Carry Your Heart to Me story. My first big mammoth smash hit was I Surrender All with Clay Cross.
Yeah.
I still can't remember having ever heard that one on the radio.
Really?
Yeah. And people ask me, when was the first time you heard it? And I'm like, I don't know that I have, honestly. Like I think I have, but if I have, I can't remember it. Like, it's really weird.
I heard that song.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people have heard it, obviously, but I can't. And I've heard it a bunch, obviously, but I just can't remember a specific time I heard it on the radio.
Yeah.
So
awesome.
It's strange. Yeah.
Yeah. That's crazy. That's really crazy. So, just going down the list. So, is there a song that you've written that like means the most to you? May even be unreleased, I mean, it could be one of your hits. We all have those songs in our dungeon. So
yeah, well, I got a few of them that are real special. Probably Leaning Tower is a song that the world hasn't heard. It's on one of my records, and it's really based on just my daughter and her condition, and just the idea that sometimes things that are imperfect are absolutely beautiful, and the hook is leave something beautiful alone, and that song's real special to me, even though the world really hasn't heard it. And then another song that's special to me is a song I wrote for my son called Miracle Boy that the world hasn't probably never heard, and it's on one of my records. And my son, we call him our Miracle Boy because he's adopted as well, and the way we got him was an absolute miracle, and he's a miracle. So just because he's just unbelievable, and really kind of, my daughter has a severe disability, and there were a lot of challenges that came with her. What came with him was all this light and all this hope and all this, laughter and love and everything, and he kind of balanced the family out. So
that's awesome.
The two songs, and then Time of My Life, those three. And those three songs probably are the most special to me. Obviously, one's about my daughter, one's about my son, and one's about really the whole family. So it doesn't take a psychologist to understand where my head's at regarding that. So,
yeah, man. Well, that's awesome. Not to say that all writers loathe their hits. It's one of those things where a lot of times as we're writing, we don't know that it's going to be a hit.
That's right.
You never know.
You're fishing, man. You don't know what's going to come out of the lake. Yeah.
I heard Quincy Jones say in an interview, it's like, yeah, we're always trying to make Thriller every single time.
That's right.
There's not ever a time when you're not trying to do that.
Yeah.
Now, whether it all lines up or not.
100%.
Yeah.
And I don't loathe, my hit songs. I mean, and there's like, it's like a song like Saving the World. I still hear that and go, man, I dig that still. I still dig that track. I mean, that's still 25 years later, that's still working.
Now, who cut that first?
That was Clay Cross cut that.
Okay.
And you know, like I've said, some of these songs, if your songs are your children, which I don't equate my songs to my children, but if you do that, some of them are, you know, slow learners. Some of them are, you know, not quite as beautiful as the other ones, and some of them are just big, strong athletes that just go out in the world and, you know, kick money back to dad and take care of themselves and, you know, never give you a minute's trouble. And that's, you know, I've got some like that. And then I've got some that are like, now come on, let me help you along here a little bit, you know.
Yeah. Even the world,
yeah,
funky, man. That's a funky groove.
Yeah, that was a fun song to write. I wrote it so fast. We cut it in one take. Clay sang it in one take. Joe Baldridge mixed it in 3 hours. Went straight to #1. I mean, that is like one of those things that you know, it just was bullseye all the way.
Wow.
They did a video on it. The video's still cool. 23 years later, still cool video. You know, it's just, but they're not all that. But you're always hoping that they are.
Man,
you know?
Yeah, man. Mix in 3 hours.
Yeah,
awesome.
And it was smoking. No overdubs. We all cut it. 7 players in the room, same time. That's the record.
Dude, I mean, that's an anomaly in and of itself.
Yeah.
Yeah, Clay's a great singer, no doubt.
Oh, man. I've always said if there is such a thing as a golden voice, he's got it.
Oh, wow, know? Yeah. Which comes first, the chicken, the egg, the lyric, the melody?
Melody.
Melody?
Yeah. I heard Billy Joel say once, when he writes the lyrics first, it's pretentious, and I think I tend to agree with that. I think the melody is the thing and the lyric is subordinate to that. You know, you always have to be able to sing it. At the end of the day, we're writing songs, not poetry.
Right.
And if the lyric can be poetic, that's wonderful. But you know, the thing that trumps all of that is to be able to go purple rain, you know, and that's that stuff's got to be glued together. And the way it gets glued together to me is that the melody is the guide.
Yeah. Yeah, that would have been a lot different if it would have been Orange Rain.
Right.
You know,
yeah. So that's right.
So, okay, heroes, influences. Who's when you're, you know, I always say I hate when people ask me, like, what are the 3 movies I'd take on the desert island? Because I always just pick Star Wars, you know, and that's my 3 movies. You know,
well, let me say this about I posted this the other day. I don't want records. I want a boat. If I'm on a desert island, bring me a boat. Don't bring me any records.
Yeah.
Either a boat or a piano. There's one of the two.
Yeah.
You know, heroes. Yeah, I mean, I'm a child of the '70s, so I was raised on all that stuff. And the first song I learned to play was "Close to You," Carpenters. You know, so Bacharach obviously is a hero. I love all of the American songbook writers. I've studied a lot of Irving Berlin and Cole Porter and those guys. I think that's amazing songwriting. I love like Broadway musical type songwriting because it's hard rhymes and it's tight as a tick, and it's, you know, that's great craft. But as far as just like gut punch influences, I mean, Andre Crouch, you know, I was raised in church, so Andre Crouch is big. Dottie Rambo.
Yeah.
And then that kind of expanded as I grew up and got into James Taylor and Elton and Billy and you know, all the Jim Croce, you know, all of the Stevie Wonder, Smokey Robinson, you know, all the Motown stuff. I went through all that. Then I got completely flipped on my head with Dylan, and, you know, went through that, and I wanted to be John Hyatt for a minute, and, you know, so it's all over the map. Stevie Nicks, you mentioned Stevie Nicks, you know, Joni Mitchell. I mean, it's males and females and different, you know, races of people. I'm not a purist when it comes to anything, really. I love all of it. So
yeah, I was talking to Wayne Kirkpatrick, and he was like, I asked him, you know, what's one of his favorites or whatever, and he said "Somewhere Over the Rainbow."
Oh yeah,
and I was like,
maybe the best song ever written.
Yeah. Well, and I was like, you know, it's funny, like the Christmas song, like, you know, Chestnuts, like you have, not only is that a well-written lyric, but your chord knowledge,
oh my gosh,
has to be on another level to write those kind of songs. You know what I mean?
absolutely. I mean, I'm telling you, Christmas is one of the reasons I love it. Is it's the last place we still get to hear that kind of thing.
Oh yeah, man.
You know, and you don't know when you're listening to the Christmas song. I don't know if people know exactly what they're listening to, but it's genius. You know,
Oh, yeah.
and that's a great marriage of lyric and melody. You know, where that lyric is so it takes you where it needs to go. It's linear. There's no fluff. There's nothing that doesn't need to be there. It's all, you know, it's just great.
Yeah.
And a lot of Christmas songs are some of my favorite songs. You
Yeah.
know? So
yeah, man. Do you find you write better just when you have an inspiration, or like when you have a goal in mind, you know, something like that? You know, do you write better under pressure? You know, do you just wake up in the morning, just go, hey, I'm just going to write a song about donuts this morning? You know what I mean? You know?
I definitely can perform under pressure. I've written a lot of stuff on commission. I've had several, you know, films that, you know, hey, this got to be done tomorrow, you know, or even records for that matter. We got to have a second verse by this afternoon. None of that ever scares me. I can perform pretty well under that kind of pressure. So I guess the answer would be yes, maybe to that. These days, I don't write as much as I used to. I mainly just write for me now. I'm not really out there writing for other artists and whatever, but it's easier for me now. I don't know why. I think my editor is better. I know kind of what to leave out sooner. You know, I don't have to go down so many rabbit holes. I can kind of see around the corners a little easier than I used to be able to. And I'm able to get honest faster. And I think that's the big thing. To me, a lot of people can't, you know, so much of the time you're having to wait on everybody to get honest. You know,
Right.
Now once we get honest, now we can write a song, and I can get honest faster than I used to be able to. Also, when you've been doing something 45 years,
Yeah.
you know, it becomes maybe a little. The flip side of that is that sometimes it might be a little stale. That's what I have to watch out for, is to go, okay, I've already done this a few times. You know, I need to find a different place to go here.
Yeah. And one time, I don't know, I had this crazy idea. It's like, even back, it was like when I first signed my publishing deal, like my very first one, and I felt like I just kept going to the same chords all the time, right?
Right.
Just easy, you know? And so I got this little hat. I like took my hat off and I wrote down all of the chords, numbers or whatever. And I said, okay, whatever I draw out, that's going to be the first chord. Whatever, you know what I mean? And
I love that. Yeah.
it ended up being one of the wackiest, you know, 3/7 to flat 7 to,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Just, it ended up being so, I mean, I almost couldn't write to it because it ended up being too weird, you know what I mean? But I've tried that a couple times, and
But it mixed it up for you, right?
yeah, it just got me out of my head a little bit, you know what I mean?
Right. Well, the thing about a guy like you is, Sam, is you're such a musical genius in the regard that you could take 1-5-6 minor 4, and you could write that 3 times a day, and you could come up with so many different melodies over that you could make a living doing that. And that's probably what ended up happening. It's like, this is, you know,
Yeah,
I could do this, and I know I can come up with a different melody, you know what I mean? And I think, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, my first lawyer told me when I first signed my first publishing deal, he said, you need to he said, hey, you're starting your career right now. What you want to create is the thing nobody else can, you know, if they want that, they have to come to you. And that might mean that you're doing a lot of the same thing.
Oh, wow.
But it's, as long as it's you, it's okay if it's, you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
But
yeah, I'm definitely always a proponent of, if you're a writer, you have to go through your own dark night of the chord progression.
that's right.
You know what I mean? You got to go through that to find out what do I write? You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
Where do I stand? Because I've got a couple things that, I mean, they're, you know, I don't hear anybody do them over a lot, you know?
Right.
But I feel them when I do them, you know. I think, and also Bruce Hornsby ruined it for me because he's so awesome, and everything he does, I'm like, man, I want to just do that. You know what I
Can
mean?
I be you? Can I just be
Yeah.
you, Bruce?
Yes. Yes.
He
Yes.
ruined it for all of us.
Yeah, he did. He did. It's funny, you know. Oh, who? I can't even think of his name now. The actor that's always either the ninja Eskimo guy that fights all the time, like big during the 90s, 80s, 90s, dark hair. He's always the
Steven Seagal?
yeah, Steven Seagal. Okay. So yeah.
Ninja Eskimo. Wow.
Always
Okay.
an Eskimo or a ninja or something, and
Something, yeah.
complexion to just do that, you know?
Right.
And yeah, I've always thought that was pretty rocking. But it's funny, we watched a movie with him one time, and he did like a documentary, and everybody on the set was like, have you seen him work with his hands? I mean, it was just, you know, whatever he does is just the most amazing thing. And it was weird because they would walk around to like all the people on the set, and they were like, it was almost like he could, everything he did was like, you know,
Right.
It was ridiculous. And I saw a Bruce Hornsby thing one time, and he had done this, you know, they had an interview with him or whatever, and everybody on the set was just like, man, have you seen what he can do with this? And after a while, I was like, man, like, you know, that's crazy. You know what I mean? Like,
I want people like that in my life.
right, exactly. You know, everything I do is just unbelievable. You know,
have you seen that dude butter toast? It's unreal how he can butter toast.
I have never found those people in my corner. You know, I just want somebody to just look at me and go, you know what? We were thinking about hiring you to be a Japanese ninja, but you know, on second thought, we thought Eskimo ninja.
Boom.
That's hilarious. All right. So what do you love about other people's songwriting? Like, is there a song that you've heard that somebody else did that you're like, dude, I wish I would have written that?
I mean, there's a lot of songs that I just admire. I'm trying to think of ones that have just kind of turned me on my head lately, and not a ton of them. Sadly, as I've gotten older, there's not a lot that I hear and go, I can't do that, or I wish I could do that, or or that's freaking me out. Yeah. Not a lot of that, as much as there used to be. But I mean, I remember hearing "Strawberry Wine" for the first time, and just the way that story. And I love storytelling songs. It's the way that story unfolded, the way she took me there. I could smell the grass. I could see the place. That was pretty special. I will tell you this. There's a song Joel's got coming out with Ty Herndon and Kristen Chenoweth called "Orphans of God" that's getting ready to come out. And I love that song. I mean, the first time I heard it, I just shed tears. And that's a Joel Lindsay, Twyla LaBar song. And that's a song that I just love. I mean, and aspire to write that well, and that emotional.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, it's great. I'm so happy for him. It's an old song. I mean, it's been around for over a decade. Yeah, so a lot of those kind of songs. I mean, you talked about Wayne Kirkpatrick. I've admired several of his songs.
Have you written Wayne?
No, I don't really even know him that well. But I'll tell you what, man, your wife's song, "King of the World." First time I heard that. Did you write that too with her? Did you guys write that together?
I mean, here's the thing. My wife wrote the song, and I came in, like, she had written the first verse, the chorus, and pretty much all of the second verse, and out of kindness said, hey, do you want to finish this with me? You know what I mean? She didn't need me to do it. You know what I mean? So
like, okay, honey, move over. I got
this. Right. Yeah. It's that. Yeah, man. I'm telling you, my wife is she gets on a lyric and just loves on it. You know what I mean? Just stays with it forever. And it's funny. We just came out with a record. I was talking to somebody about this the other day. Our first song that we had off this record is called "Getaway Car," right? And the first half was, getaway car. And then the second half, we wrote it about a train, the last train, blah, blah, blah. Well,
the getaway car. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And she wouldn't let it go. She's like, well, it's not about a getaway car. Now you've made it about a train. And man, I was like, I was so ready to get the record done. I was like, no, there's no, let's just do it. Let's go, And she just said, no, we've got to keep going, So that song took like 2 months.
Yeah.
Really, and finally out of nowhere, she said, hey, I've got the rest of the lyric. Here you go. And I was like, okay, yeah, that's right.
Sam, I'm gonna tell you something. I believe this, and I've said this to people before. That's the difference. People are always wondering what the difference is between amateur, professional, between good and great. What you just described is the difference. In that it's not necessarily always more talent. It's not more ability. It's that trait that says, nope, this isn't right yet. And there's something nagging at me. And the person that will follow that all the way down to the dark end of insanity, that's the difference between good and great.
Yes, I hear that wholeheartedly. Yeah, she's that kind of person. So, what do you do to keep current?
Nothing.
There you go. Next question.
You know what, man? I will tell you this. I used to always say this, and I think I was right, and I still say it. If you were current, you're behind.
Oh, yeah.
I am. When I did my first solo record, and it was nothing like what was on the radio. And I remember, dude, I spent a ton of money on this record. And I was having friends come by the studio and pull me aside and go, dude, what are you doing? Like, you are wasting your money. What in God's name are you doing? And I just said, I don't know. This is how I hear it. And I know it doesn't sound like anything that's happening right now, but this is how I hear it. But what I learned on that, Sam, was by the time it came out, singer-songwriter kind of stuff was coming back around. I think to answer your question, what I do is stay true to me.
Come on.
And as long as I'm being true to me and I'm not chasing something, I'm not chasing anything except the muse that I've got happening in my own head, then I'm happy with it, and I'm going to let it stand, because 5 years from now, everything's going to be different. 10 years from now, everything's going to be different. And I still want that thing to live where it lives. I made American Dreams. It came out 17 years ago. My 13-year-old son was listening to it on Apple Music yesterday and came in and said, dude, he said, Dad, those songs are fire. So I wasn't trying to be current. I was just trying to be true to me. And so I'm happy to let it live. When I start chasing trends, that may not be trouble for them, but it is for me. So I decided a long time ago, I write Regie Hamm songs and I make Regie Hamm records.
There you go. That's the best advice ever, man.
Yeah. And if you like that, then you've got one place you can come for that. And if you don't like that, then no harm, no foul, But,
yeah. Nashville more than LA or New York, from what I know of those two cities. Nashville has more of a writer identity.
Yes.
And you got artists that are waiting to cut somebody else's songs,
right.
At least they used to be, more,
right.
You got to write with the artist now, but LA was more, hi, I'm Yngwie Malmsteen and I'm writing my own record. You know what I mean? They're not going to put a Sam Mizell song on an Yngwie Malmsteen record,
Yeah, there was an economy of songwriter in Nashville that there used to be, maybe in New York back in the 60s or something, and maybe in LA in the 70s, but this whole economy of you can make a living as a writer and kick your songs to other artists, and that's really kind of Nashville centric,
Yeah, but what I was saying, like, I see it in you a lot. I see it in Wayne Kirkpatrick a lot. Like, you're probably more of an artist than you are a writer for somebody else.
I am.
Yeah. So you're not, trying to be current is almost kind of like saying, well, how do I do something other than who I am? and that's just that's not even part of the equation, you know?
Yeah, I think every writer and artist, and sometimes that's the same. You know, sometimes you're a writer and an artist, and sometimes you're just a writer. There's nothing wrong with either one, but I think you do get to this point in your career. I had a song player named Jimmy Metz once who told me something, and I've never forgotten. And he said, at some point, you have to figure out which animal you are. And and he's like, you know, are you the 10-2 writer guy, the Tony Wood kind of writer who's, you know, who shows up, can plug into anybody's thing and make it better, make it work, you know, or are you the writer that writes 100 songs a year and shotguns them? Are you, you know, and I took that to heart, and I realized when I became an artist, when I went and got a record deal and all that I really am more of the animal that writes my kind of song. And if, you know, if it happens to work for Clay Cross, that's wonderful. If Tim McGraw hears it and wants to cut it, that's great. But I don't tailor my songs for the, you know, other people anymore. But that's just me, and that's the journey that I've decided to follow, you know.
That's awesome, man.
And it's been better, and I think the songs have been better because of it.
Yeah. Any funny stories on any co-writes that you can tell?
yeah, right. I was gonna say there's a ton of them. I will tell you this. I got a kind of a funny story, and maybe this will be instructive for some people.
All right.
I was always a Bob Carlisle fan. This happened years and years ago, but Bob and I met through a mutual friend, and I had shown up and written a song with this guy, and then Bob heard the song and loved it, and then became friends with me, and then Bob and I decided we're going to get on the books and write. And when the day I met him, he had just lost his record deal. He had just lost his huge record deal, and he was really depressed. So here, get this: he had lost his record deal, but just gotten offered a tiny record deal, right?
Right.
And so we're there. I'm there to write, and I didn't realize he's going through all this turmoil. And he says to me, "Look, man, if you're here to make money, you're in the wrong place. You need to leave now, because I just lost the big record deal. I'm going to sign this little tiny deal. I'm going to make that record for as cheap as I can make it. I'm going to go out on weekends and sing, and I'm going to come home during the week and be a soccer dad. I am done with this."
Wow.
He said, "I am done chasing all this mess. I've been doing this for 30 years. I am tired." He said, "So if you're here to get a big cut on a big record, you're just in the wrong place." And I was like, "Bob, I just love what you do. Like, I can't pinching myself that I'm even here. I don't even know if I'm good enough to be in the room with you, but I'm just happy to be here. And I don't care about any of that." So we wrote a song, and then I came back 2 days later, and we wrote another song. And anyway, we wrote about 3 songs for this little tiny record he was doing.
Right.
And so he puts a song on this record that he wrote for his daughter for her 16th birthday. And that little tiny record label got bought up by a bigger record label during the making of his record. And then that bigger record label got bought up by a huge record label.
Wow.
And the head of that record label heard the song he wrote for his daughter and put it out as a single, and it was Butterfly Kisses. And that record went on to sell 3 million records. And I made a ton of money, you know.
Dude.
The object of the moral of the story is, sometimes you have to be calculating in your moves. Sometimes just be passionate and just show up and let magic happen around you. You know, just let it happen. And
Butterfly Kisses, what an awesome song, man.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't write it, but I had songs on the record, and I had a number one song on. I had actually the first number one song off that record called "Mighty Love." That's the song we wrote that day that he told me, you know, to leave if I wanted to make any money. And so Bob and I ended up becoming great friends. We've written all kinds of songs together. I produced one of his records. He's got a new record coming out now, and I've got a song that we wrote 20 years ago on it. Anyway, it's been a career, like a full career, you know, of a catalog together. And if I had just listened to the surface stuff, I might have just like packed up my pencil and gone home.
Yes,
But
indeed.
I was like, I just want to be a part of this, man. This is good. And it could have very well done nothing, but it ended up being like this huge thing. So, yeah, that's the kind of stuff that happens a lot in the music business. You got to be able to handle the float, man.
Yeah, man.
And you got to be there for the passion. That's the thing.
On that one record, he became an Eskimo ninja.
He absolutely became an Eskimo. There's no doubt about it. Yeah.
No doubt about it. It just
Yeah.
happened. Yeah, I love that, man. I love when stuff just the unexpected. So I want to mention your blog here. Folks, if you don't know Reggie's blog, you got to go check it out. Because I was going to ask, what do you do other than music?
Yeah.
And the pen is mightier than the sword, unless
Unless they're trying to stab you with a sword.
sword, right?
Then it's definitely the sword.
Then it's definitely the sword, which is true.
Yeah, I found out through the American Idol story that I didn't tell, but it's a whole other epic story. But that was the first blog that I did that was like viral, and it kind of put me in the world of people wanting to read what I write. And so that I had blogged before that. I'd been a pretty regular blogger before that, but that really put me in the mindset of this needs to be a regular thing that comes out every week. And I need a WordPress site and all that stuff. And that's kind of, honestly, Sam, probably more my full-time job than music now, because I blog every day for my Patreon people. I put a blog out every week publicly. And that is, man, that's kind of become my thing. I've written 5 books. And so, the printed page has been something that I've really focused more on probably the last 10 years than the songwriting.
Yeah.
And I really love it. But I will tell you, it does not have the magic that music has.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not, it doesn't do for your soul what music does, And so, so I keep my hand, definitely in music, and I still work on things that I want to work on, that I love, or that come my way. That I'm getting ready to produce some stuff on some guys who are just trying to get better at what they do, and they reached out to me, and you know what, we're gonna see if it works. But stuff like that, kind of keeping it fresh and just kind of something new.
Right on, man. So, last thoughts. If you were a writer for 45 years, and if you had saved up all this knowledge, and if you were going to impart wisdom onto the new and the next, what's the top 50? Just kidding. What is one thing that you go, man, this is it? I mean, this for me, I mean, you've already said so much, but I mean, just, what's that one thing?
Don't do it.
Yes, stay away.
To do something else. That's a good question. I always go back to this: honesty. Be honest about who you are. Be honest about what you're trying to say. Be honest about that's how you carve out your place in the universe. I think Woody Guthrie said, you don't start writing till you get through hiding. And
wow.
And I think that's right. Just be honest about what you came here to say. I do firmly believe this, Sam, and this runs through my blog, it runs through my books, it runs through my music. I do firmly believe that everybody is here for a reason with a purpose. I absolutely believe that. I know it to be the case. I went to a country with 2 billion people, and I brought home the one person that has Angelman syndrome, and I've seen her this life that you could easily say, well, that's just something we're going to have to manage. And I've seen this person change everybody around her. And I know that she's got a purpose, and she was here for a reason. Same with my son, same with you, same with your wife, your kids. We all have a purpose. We all have a voice, right? Something unique. All of the stuff that's happened to us, it's unique to everybody else. It's not, it hasn't happened the same way to everybody else. And we need that.
Mm.
Like, we need you to tell us that. We need you to tell us who you are, why you're here. It's the old saying, like, who are you and why are you?
Mm.
That's what people want to know in artistry. Who are you and why are you? And if you're trying to be somebody else, stop that. Like, we don't need two Johnny Cashes. We had one.
Right.
We need you to be you, right? We don't need another Prince. We had one. We need you to be the next thing, whatever that is. And so I think that's the thing that I would tell everybody. Be you, learn the craft, get good at it, don't suck. But at the end of it, man, we need you. We need your unique voice.
That's right on, man.
Again, with the caveat, being yourself and sucking, that's not the same thing. Get good at it, right?
Right. Yeah. It's not just be yourself. It's be the,
it's like,
work on being
this
a
is
great
me. It's like, but right now you suck. So you
right.
need to get better. But once you get better,
yes,
then be you know?
Right. What? That really is the truth.
You haven't found the thing until you find you be honest about you, and you give me something I haven't seen yet. I promise you, if Bob Dylan walked out on the stage and guess what? That's the thing.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I'm saying. That's the thing I'm trying to tell everybody. Be you.
A lot of music today, in a weird way, seems to be functional. You know,
that's a great word, dude. That's right.
Yeah. You know, I mean, we're in a place where everybody's writing for film and TV. Okay, I need a, you know, I believe song for 30 seconds. You know, right? I believe. Okay, so you know, you're not really pouring your heart into. I mean, you may,
right.
But, you know, or even in the church. You know, it's like, okay, we need a worship song at 120 BPM about, you know, Reformation Sunday or blah blah blah, you know, reform, da 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 da, reform, you know what I mean? And it's a functional song, you know, and you know, sometimes some people can luck up and write a really great functional song, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's serviceable.
Yeah. But when you hear a well-written song that somebody has poured their juice on, it's different, you know. And
that's right.
And it's and when you can tell the identity, it's like, you know, it's like, I know when a Diane Warren song comes on,
right?
You know what I mean? I just know it, you know what I mean? Because she just has a way of saying things, you know,
right?
I know when a Regie Hamm song comes on. I know when a Becca Mizell song comes on, you know, I can just tell. I just know their voice.
You're here, man. So tell me why.
Exactly.
You know, and I think it just kind of the best compliment I ever get is when I get calls. Hey man, can you do that? Whatever that Reggie thing is that you do to it.
Yes.
And I, you know, sometimes I don't even know, but that is what I aspire to, is to make sure that when I leave this planet, I've lived long enough. I've had the success. I've made the money. All of that stuff. I've lost it all. Made it. Lost it again. But I've lived long enough now to look back on all that and go, okay, none of that matters. What matters is when I leave this planet, that I left you and my kids and the people of the world the accurate record. You know what I mean? The accurate. This is what I was about. This is what I came here to talk about, and I talked about it honestly. And if you haven't gotten to that place yet, you haven't gotten honest enough in your writing. And sometimes it might make you bleed a little bit, and sometimes it might hurt, but that's where you have to go.
Yes.
Like, until you go there, you're not doing it yet. What you want to hear from what I want to hear someone do is sit down and talk to me.
Yeah.
Tell me, man. Tell it to me. What is it you came to tell me? And that's what I want when I write a song. Like, let me tell you this, Sam. You know what I mean? You know, one day they say the land's gonna break, fall into the sea, but not today. You know what I mean? Like, I want to tell you something.
Yeah, man.
And I don't, and so the good craft will help you make it sound like it isn't written, even when it is. But the art is what takes you into the deep, dark place that you have to go to be honest about it.
I couldn't have said it better, bro. Thank you for being so gracious, man.
Thanks for inviting me. I had a great time.
I'll anything you want to mention? I know we talked about it. I'm gonna do like a little intro thing, kind of saying, hey, this is everything that Reggie's ever done in his whole life.
Okay.
And I'll put the link to the thing that you sent. But anything you want to mention?
I think that's it. I mean, if people want to support the blogs and the music and everything lives on my Patreon page. My music, my books, my blogs, all of it is there. And you can join for as little as $3 a month. And, every once in a while we'll have this kind of conversation about songwriting, but it's everything. It's politics, it's art, it's culture, it's, it's everything.
Yeah, man.
So, we appreciate anybody that wants to join that way, or go read the blog, or just go Spotify or any of these places. All of my records are out there on all the formats, Apple Music, iTunes, so you can go download or stream or however you want to do it. So
right on, man. Well, blessings to you and your wife and your kiddos.
Awesome, man. Thank you, Sam.
Good thing.
Good luck with all this. All right, buddy. Bye-bye.